Are we good to start, Emily? It is 4 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion by Sarah Brink and a second by Mary to approve our agenda. Any corrections or additions? If not, I will call for the vote.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
And that is approved. Our next item is Tiger Spotlight, and Tricia Stelter is going to talk about some special people.
We all have those moments in our jobs where something happens that we're not real excited about, but these two went way above and beyond the other day at the high school. So Tricia brought it forward. We thought this would be a good Tiger Spotlight. So Rodney and Terry, we're glad you could be here.
All right, thank you. It's my privilege today to introduce the Tiger Spotlight to Terry Fisher and Rodney Baumgar from the Marshall Custodial Department. Terry and Rodney continue to go above and beyond to support our students and staff. And a few weeks ago, we received an email from the Marshall High School principal, Brian Jones. It was evident that these two are models of our mission statement to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success. And here's the email that we received from Principal Jones. I wanted to let you both know how much I appreciate Terry and Rodney. Yesterday, we had a student lose their phone. They and their parents were quite upset and frustrated. The student came in this morning and said that it was showing it was near the loading dock. Deb went with her, and they had it play a tone, and they could hear it coming from the dumpster. Terry and Rodney went through the dumpster and found the bag that the noise was coming from. They then went through the garbage to return her phone to her. I appreciate the fact that they are willing to go above and beyond to help this young lady find her phone. So Terry and Rodney, in your line of work, you support our staff and our students every day, but it looks different. I want to thank you for showing your willingness and doing it with a gracious smile on your face. So Marshall Public Schools is lucky to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll read these first, then on. In recognition of your outstanding dedication and kindness going above and beyond your duties to support and assist a student in need, your compassion, hard work, and commitment to creating a safe and caring school environment have made a lasting impact. Your efforts do not go unnoticed, and we are truly grateful for the positive difference you make every day. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you very much.
So I have a little certificate for you, and then we'll take a picture before you go too far. Emily, do you want to snap the picture?
Cool. Picture on the.
People that would do that. That's pretty neat.
And I've seen that dumpster. It's a task to have to go through there.
I bet that. And it's never the bag right on top, right?
No.
All right.
Thank you,
Again,
guys.
you guys. Our next item is a public forum. Is there anybody from the public want to approach the board? Come on up. I'll remind you to state your name. And just a reminder that we are here to listen and we won't ask any questions or answer any questions.
Okay.
Okay, but thank you for coming.
My name is Haley and Spicer. I sub for the Marshall Public Schools. And while subbing, I have seen what a positive impact Melissa Shepard has had, not only for the students, but for the staff as well. I noticed that she has a non-renewal contract that is in the board minutes, and I am concerned for the students on this behalf. Every child should have a special person or a counselor that they feel comfortable talking to, and if their concern is about suicide or mental health, we need to do our best to find ways to continue to support the students who they feel most comfortable with. I have talked with a friend that has a 7th grader that was told that they are unable to see Miss Shepherd anymore. And after reaching out to both Mr. Apple and Mr. Williams, they were told no, they need to see either Miss Van Moore or Miss Williams. These students have built trust with Miss Shepherd, and why are we making them relive some trauma and events, etc., to see a new counselor? Why don't we have the middle school counseling set up like the high school counseling, where they have the same counselor for the next 4 years, instead of switching after 2 years? I just ask that you reconsider this decision on the non-renewal of contract for Miss Shepherd's.
Thank you. Our next item is our presentation about BAR and social emotional learning. I think that's what SEL is, right? All right. Welcome, you guys.
Thanks for having us. Sure. So my name is Peter Thor. I'm the principal at Southview Elementary.
My name is Peggy Reynolds. I'm the principal at Marshall Middle School.
And I am Bennett Apple. I'm the assistant principal here at Marshall Middle School.
And we're just going to talk a little bit about the BAR program at both Southview and the middle school, as well as our social emotional learning program. So a little bit about BAR to begin with. BAR is a framework that stands for Building Assets and Reducing Risks. It actually focuses on 8 strategies that work together to focus on building relationships with students and staff, using data, and enabling schools to help achieve those academic as well as non-academic outcomes for our students. Those 8 strategies are listed here. So number 1, we want to focus on the whole student, the academic part of the student, their social emotional needs. We talk about attendance, all of those things, because that is part of that whole student. We also have provided professional development and training for our staff, which you'll hear more about in a bit. There are BAR lessons that are provided for us through U times at the elementary level, and we use I times at the middle school. Those BAR lessons focus on helping students learn and practice essential life skills. And some of those lessons are really, really applicable, focusing on like executive functioning, how to handle conflict, a lot of those. We have also create cohorts of teachers and student teams, which you'll hear more about. We hold regular cohort teacher team meetings. There's also a facet of this called the Community Connect. Community Connect is a group of individuals who come together to focus on our highest need students and to try to figure out interventions and strategies to help those students. We also engage families in student learning, and as part of the BAR program, it's essential to have the administrators involved, and so administrators attend all of the team meetings, or most of the teacher team meetings that are being held, as well as the Community Connect.
So this is what BAR looks like at Southview. At the beginning of the school year last year, there was a grant opportunity that came out through the state. And after hearing what Brian had to say, all the good things that we've heard from Brian over the last several years about the 9th grade group and how that's really helped some of those students, I felt like we needed to at least pursue building relationships with our students. And kind of the biggest takeaway that I got from talking to Brian was, hey, there's going to be an emphasis on building relationships between students and students and staff, and then staff and staff as well. And those are some of the key things that I was worried about at my school at that time as well. And so we applied. Luckily, the Southview and middle school both got the grant. I think the Southview grant alone was $230,000 for 3 years, so that's pretty significant. We started out with the pilot team last year where I asked for volunteers, and we actually had more than what I needed to be a pilot team. So I picked one team from each grade level of 2 teachers. And they went through the implementation trainings, both day 1 and day 2 as a pilot group. And then they started just talking about it, and we started planning that first year. And then I sent this pilot team to the national conference last spring. When we came, and that allowed us to have basically a week to really prep and really get the nuts and bolts kind of put together for how this was going to look at Southview. We then had the trainers come back, and they did 2 days of training in the spring for us for all of our staff. And so at Southview, we have our small blocks going, we have our Community Connect group going. This year, the main focus we have is on our U-Time activities. Our U-Time activities are about 25 minutes each. Each week, we have a topic that's picked out. My teachers really enjoy it because they don't have to really prep anything. And a lot of my teachers will tell me, hey, Pete, these are things that we typically already do anyways, but it's nice to see that as a whole school, we're doing it at the same time. I've asked my assistant principal and myself to introduce each of these U-Time activities with a short 2-minute video. And so the students see our face, they hear it from us, they hear it from their teachers. We're having a lot of different teachers do it. So we have PE teachers doing it for one of the weeks. We have our media teacher, I think they did the lesson last week. And so we're pulling a lot of different teachers to do it instead of just our homeroom teachers. Our last piece that we need to put in place in year 3 is going to be our big block implementation. And that's where we put multi-grade level teachers together, or team of teachers together. This year, it was just really tough for us to do because of the OLA training and how much time that's been allocated towards that. So we have kind of said, hey, let's kind of use this year as a planning year so that next fall we can kind of hit the ground running with big blocks. With BAR, we do have weekly meetings with our BAR coach, which is Sarah Thorson is the coach for us and the middle school as well. And this year, our focus has been on attendance and behaviors. And so when I meet with her, we talk about attendance, how can we increase attendance? And really, our U-Time activities are one thing that my students love to talk to me about. When I see them in the hall, even if I don't know who they are, I can talk to them about, hey, what'd you guys do for your U-Time activity? And they'll sit down, they share it, and then they'll share it with me. And then we also track our behaviors. So we went back and tracked last year's behaviors, both minors and majors, and then we're tracking it this year as well and see if there's any changes in that.
So pretty similar to what Peter had said about Southview, BAR at the middle school. So we applied for and received the grant as well last year. Very fortunate for that. We had our 5th grade team pilot that in 23-24. So they did their trainings on November 21st and 22nd last year. And that consisted of our language arts teachers, our math teachers, science and social for 5th grade, as well as our 5-6 counselor, one of our EL teachers, and then one of our special education teachers as well. So they were able to kind of immerse themselves in and take a look at what BAR looks like at the middle school. As I said earlier, it's very similar to Southview, but there are a few different pieces where it's different, and I'll talk more about that here in a bit. We were also fortunate to have a team attend the national conference in April. I had the unique situation where last year I was a 4th grade teacher, and I was actually on that piloting team at Southview last year, so I got to see it from a teacher's lens, and how this year I get to see it from an administrative lens, and it's just so cool to see how different yet similar the two roles have with each other. And like Peter had kind of mentioned, it's about connecting everybody, students and staff together. And so our team that went last year, we had Scott Mintowney, Laura Miller, Erica Hess, Joseph Schmidt, Peggy, Amber Altide, and Ethan Hoppy. So we had a mix of some of our piloting team and then some that were going to be starting it in the full implementation this year to kind of answer their questions about what it looks like and then come back and present to our staff. So at the national conference, there's a lot of whole group sessions, and it's really cool because you get to connect with all of these schools around the nation. Like there's a lot of schools in Maine, there's a lot of schools in California, and a lot of schools in Minnesota who are now really on the board for the BAR train. And so it's really really cool to kind of see and hear about all of the different struggles that they're seeing in their schools that we're facing, so we can see that we're not alone. And there's a lot of small breakout sessions, and we were really strategic on who we placed in what sessions, so that way we got a mix of everything, and then we could come back together and kind of talk about what did we see, what did we hear, how can we put this in our middle school next year. This year, we had all of our staff, all of our certified staff trained for 2 days in August. That was on August 13th and 14th. And what we really focused on that is really diving into what is BAR. A lot of our teachers were wondering, how is this going to work in our school? Is it going to be one more thing? How are we going to get our middle schoolers, right? Middle schoolers are not always the most hyped about school. How are we going to get them excited about something, a new initiative? And so we got to really talk about what BAR was. We talked about the I times, like Peter had mentioned about the U times. It's kind of activities getting to know the students as a whole. I times are the same thing, but it's just at a more advanced level. They connect really well, so that way when our students from Southview are coming over, they're going to know exactly what it is. It's just a little bit more deeper, or it's helping them at that higher level. And then the last day we had our training, we had some intentional time for the last 3 hours of our training to really figure out, how does this look in our middle school? Like I had said earlier, we had a lot of teachers that were wondering, what's it going to be like? And so we had intentional planning time, which we got to talk about our small blocks and our big blocks and who that was. So we have, like Ms. Reynolds had said, we have our small blocks. So what that consists of is, in every grade level, we have an orange team and we have a black team. So we have one language arts teacher, one math teacher, and then one science or social. In fifth grade, our fifth grade teachers teach science and social. And so their students are assigned to one of those teams. So for example, if a student is in fifth grade and they're on the fifth grade black team, they're going to have Mrs. Pollock, they're going to have Mr. Midtowney, and they're going to have Mrs. Weedman. That helps our teachers better understand who our students are. So that way, if they see they're coming in for a couple days in a row and they just kind of seem down in the dumps or something like that, they're able to pick up on that and talk about it more and just know our students more as a whole. And so we do our weekly I-Time lessons as well, and a big concern with a lot of our middle school staff, we have a lot of pathways courses. They're like, we're not tied to a team. And so we wanted to be intentional about, how do we get those pathways teachers involved in BAR as well, right? We don't want them just to be sideline staff. We want them immersed in this as well. And so we were really intentional about how we had our I-Time lessons set up. So 1 week it's our math teachers, 1 week it's our language arts, 1 week it's our science and social, 1 week it's our advisors, and then 1 week it's our specials. So that way everybody throughout the year is having multiple times with these students during doing the I-Times. So our small block meetings look like one of our language arts, one of our math, one of our social science. If we have one of our pathways or one of our specials teachers who's like, hey, I'm really seeing concerns with this student in my class, they talk to Ms. Reynolds or myself, we sub for them, so that way they're allowed to come into the small or big block meetings as well, so they have a voice as well. And they just talk about any of the students that are a level 0 or a level 1. So our level 0 students are our students that are doing amazing, they're thriving, we have no concerns about them, but we still want to recognize them and we want to still make them be seen here at school. Our level 1 students are, maybe they have some slight concerns, where maybe some behavior or academics where we need a little bit of intervention. Then we talk about our big blocks. So our small blocks happen once a week. Our teachers that are in teams have a shared prep time, so they're able to meet once a week with that intentional time outside in our school contract hours, so they don't have to go outside of those. Our big block meetings are happening every other week within our teams. So like this week it's an orange week, next week it'll be a black week, and so on and so forth. Those are the same as our small block meetings, but now we're adding administrators to those meetings, and we're adding our appropriate counselor as well. So those are our level 2 students. So those are students where we tried some of those interventions with our level 1 students. However, we're not seeing the progress that we were looking with. So now we need to escalate it just a little bit more. And then our last piece that we've just started up and running here at the middle school is our Community Connect meetings. So that would be our administrators, that's our nurse, counselors, school resource officer, drug and alcohol counselor, or anybody outside of our schooling system that we think could help us with our students that are level 3. So those are our students that are more at risk, and we are like, big red flag, we see some big concerns in them. What can we do to better support them? Whether it's attendance, whether it's academics, or whether it's behaviors. And so the things that we're tracking here at the middle school, we have 3 major things we're tracking. Our behavior referrals. We're taking a look at, we have a little bit a different system than Southview does. So we have levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're taking a look at our leveled behaviors from last year to this year. I run a weekly report to see where are we at last year with our behaviors, where are we at this year. And so far we found that our level 3 and our level 4 behaviors are down quite significantly from last year, which is great to see. We're also tracking our attendance. And so I've been pulling weekly data for our chronic absentee students and keeping track of how many absences situations they have each week and what are the reasons for that, and then bringing those up at our big block meetings to figure out how can we better support them, how can we get them to school. And the last piece Ms. Reynolds has been working on is the missing assignments report. She runs that each week, and she's been in contact with our teachers to make sure we're in contact with our students to see, are we getting those assignments turned in? Are there assignments that maybe they are done that we just need to re-go back and check? So we're making sure that our students feel supported and they know what is expected of them, and making sure that they have all their work done.
So these are just some of the pictures of different activities that we've done within our U times. The Rainbow in the Cloud is something where our kids will kind of just be, where they write compliments to each other. The middle two was the Lollipop Moments, where Mrs. Pearson and myself, those are the videos that we did last week to kind of share. And then, as you can see, we have a bunch of these just kind of flowing around. So that was what was on my desk when I got to my desk at the end of the day. So it was really neat to just kind of see the students kind of take part in that and just have that conversation back and forth. You guys want to explain?
Yeah, and so these are a couple of the pictures that are of our bar, our I times in action. So the one on the right side where looks like we've got the antlers up, that was a non-verbose cue. So one of the activities that they did was like a feeling charade, where they just tried to figure out what they were doing, what they were going through without actually using their words. So helping them to communicate with nonverbals. And then this was one of our first ones that we had a lot of different neat things. We had some of our teachers did this with Legos. Some of them actually built it on a map. Some of them used Minecraft, where they got to create a community. And so it was like a team building activity. So within their advisors, they got into different groups and they got to create a map of their ideal community and talk about what things they would like. So it helped them work together and collaborate to build their ideal community.
So your I time and U time, they're the same thing?
They're the same
You just
thing,
call
but U time is just elementary level, I time is middle and high school.
And you guys do it for 25 minutes a week too?
Ours,
or-
yeah, approximately.
Okay.
Yep.
The second part of our presentation is about social emotional learning. This is all pulled from the Second Step curriculum. Second Step curriculum was a grant that we wrote probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I think this is actually our last year of having it. And so we really have to kind of figure out if we're going to renew it and how we're going to do that. I really, in subbing in a couple different classrooms, I've seen it work in the second grade classroom, third grade classroom, and fourth. When we took on BAR, there was a lot of questions about, hey, do we still need social emotional learning if there's so much focus on building relationships within BAR itself already? And I, if it was just me, I'd say yes. Social emotional learning, our curriculum really talks to kids about different situations that they're put into. How do you interact with a peer? How do you take losing? How do you play a game? How do you learn to take turns? You know, so you think of like a second grader growing up to just maturing through second grade to third grade, fourth grade. I love seeing that change from a beginning second grader to somebody that we're going to send to the middle school. And a lot of that deals with, a lot of these 30-minute lessons really help our SEL teachers have that conversation. It is video-based, it is online-based, the curriculum. And so I have 3 SEL teachers. Second grade is Jen High. She's a retired middle school counselor who came back and is working for us part-time. She sees our second graders for 25 minutes just once a week. The kids come to her and she does the presentation and she shares that with the teachers so they can continue to have that conversation within their classrooms as well. Our third graders have Mrs. Bigler, who's our school social worker. She has the third grade groups, again, for 25 minutes each week. And so everybody sees her and gets the same message there. And then Mr. Jacobson has our fourth grade group. And I would say one of their biggest goals this year was to just really make connections with the kids. And so I believe 2 out of the 3 counselors have had lunch with every kid within their grade at some point, and the other one is really close to being done. And so that just, you know, I see the kids and when they hear that it's their day to have lunch with one of our counselors and they get excited about it and they want to come into the office and just have that conversation and just collaborate with their friends and do an activity together, that's really neat for me to see, where most kids aren't going to miss that day, right? So when their name is called, I see their eyes just light up. They come and tell me about it. They ask if I'm going to be a part of it. Sometimes I get invited in, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm subbing so that our counselors can do that. So I really like this program. I feel like it definitely serves a need within Southview.
So at the middle school, we also use Second Step, and we are fortunate to have a full-time SEL teacher in Mrs. Jessica Williams. And so she supports our students by, number one, she'll go into 5th and 6th grade classrooms to present the Second Step lessons. She also will work with students on executive functioning. And what that is all about is we're finding that our students who are struggling academically, they're struggling because they don't necessarily know how to start or how to stay with a task or how to stay organized. And so her role in having the resources to help those students has been key this year, as far as getting some of those students back on track, or at least helping them feel like they're getting back on track. We also this year had Jess Williams go through the COPE program, creating opportunities for personal empowerment. That's something that Avera here in Marshall was offering, and so we had her trained in that. So that is for some of our students who maybe need a little bit of additional support, but can't necessarily go to an Avera for those type of that type of support level. So she's been trained in that COPE program. She also works a lot with conflict resolution. So you can imagine middle school, there's some of that. And so she works quite a bit with different groups of students that are just having issues with each other and how to resolve that and what that looks like. Another big part of her day is to provide soft starts for students. And a soft start might be a student who's having a lot of anxiety. We want them here at school. They might not necessarily want to come to school, and so having them say, hey, you know what, those first 10 minutes of your day, I'm going to meet with you, I'm going to support you, I'm here for you, what does your day look like and how can I help you? And so those soft starts have been really important and very successful for our students. And so all of those things, as well as our 7th and 8th grade students using the Second Step program in their advisories, all of those have really are in place to help our students at all levels. And it's closely intertwined, like we were saying, with BAR, but they're different. You know, they are different because BAR they're just meeting different needs. You know, social emotional learning, Second Step lessons, like Pete was saying, it's more scenarios and things like that and how that can be played out in real life. So we are fortunate to have that program at the middle school. We are going to, again, take a look at what it looks like next year with the Second Step, with that grant going away. Will we continue it? We'll be deciding that in the future. But yes, do you guys have any questions? It's a lot of information.
Good information, guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Our next item is the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion. Thanks, Sarah. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion by Sarah Brink and a second by Mary to approve our consent agenda. I will call for the vote. It's not coming up on mine. Well,
Maybe a bit of timed out during the presentation.
did it come up on anybody else's?
Yep.
Oh, it did?
There we go.
You're waiting for me. There we go. And that is approved. Next item is the board forum. Any reports from the board or updates? Hearing none. We'll move on to a first review of policies 605, 606, 611, 612.1, 618, 621, and 623. Any questions or concerns with these? This is, like I said, the first review of these.
Yeah, these are just to review again, like it's had the last few times. There's just nothing substantial and change.
Next item is a second review of policies 525 to 531, 533, 534, and 540. This is a second review of these policies. We will approve these at the next meeting. Moving on. Discussion on our budget parameters and direction.
Just share that, and Sarah, you can chime in too, but we've met with Finance Committee, we met with Exec Committee, and just looking at what the budget looks like it's going to be like for next year, still proposing definitely a budget deficit for next year. Had some conversation about what we have in reserves and what an appropriate level for reductions and how that would offset with deficit spending for next year. The proposal from those teams is look for a $250,000 to $350,000 reduction in spending for next year. So that's something that wanted the board to kind of be on the page of. That's what the committees have talked about. We'll take that back to the admin team, and they'll have some conversations about what that could look like. And we'll certainly have some conversation at the buildings, and then we'd bring that back to the board in the proposed budget for next year. But it would mean deficit spending and reductions for next year to try and balance where we're at.
Thanks, Jeremy. And just a reminder, we are going to have a work session after this meeting, and we may discuss that further.
Yep.
So, any questions for Jeremy on that? Our action items: approval of resolution relating to termination and non-renewal of the teaching contracts of the teachers as presented. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thanks, Sarah. Motion by myself and seconded by Sarah Brink to approve this resolution. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. And those are approved. Next item is approval of the Title IX Policy 522. You can explain it, but I know we're going back to the 2020 policy.
Yeah, so this was a change. The Title IX rules had changed. Rules we had were from 2020. They had changed officially in 2024 after some changes with the previous administration at the federal level. And now with the new administration, there's been it was actually just before it took office, there were some changes to Title IX again, reverting back to the 2020 policy. So the 2020 policy that had been in effect before, MSBA is recommending districts go back to that version of that, just with the rules of how discrimination is, any claim or something should be processed is really where the changes are and what would qualify as a Title IX claim. So the recommendation is go back to 2020, and because it's a federal law change and a policy has been in place before, it doesn't need 3 readings. So the recommendation was that we bring that to the board for approval to revert to the 2020 version of Title IX.
Thanks, Jeremy. I will make a motion to approve this. I need a second.
Second.
Thanks, Sarah. There's a motion by myself and a second by Sarah Brink to approve this Title IX Policy 522. Any further discussion? I will call for the vote.
Hold on. I got disconnected.
Uh-oh. Should be back. Dean's log out here. That's what happened to him earlier.
There we go. And that is approved. And I will adjourn this meeting. Thanks, everyone, and we'll meet down there for our work session. Thanks, everybody.